Hey everyone! Good to see you today. Something pretty big just came out of Washington, and honestly, it could change the way Americans think about retirement for decades. President Trump just floated the idea of a brand new retirement program for working Americans inspired by Australia's superannuation system. And this is one of those topics where the first reaction is usually, wait, what exactly does that mean for me? And also, does this replace Social Security? The surprising part is that this idea didn't even start as a retirement proposal. It came up during an event celebrating the largest private donation in American history. So, yeah, there's a lot more going on beneath the surface, and there are a few details here that most people haven't heard yet. Stay with me because understanding this could really help you think about your own long-term plans and what retirement might look like in the United States in the future. Before we get too far, let me ask you something simple. How do you personally feel about the future of retirement in America? Do you feel confident, worried, unsure? I'd really love to hear your thoughts in the comments because you all bring in so many different life experiences. So let's get into what actually happened. A few days ago, President Trump was on stage at the White House celebrating a $6.25 billion donation from Michael Dell and his wife, Susan. This donation is going toward the new Trump accounts for kids. Now, these accounts are meant to give every child in America a small investment nest egg. But what caught everyone off guard was that during that speech, Trump said the administration is looking very seriously at something else, something much bigger for the entire U.S. workforce. And that's when he mentioned Australia's superannuation model. And if you've never heard of that, don't worry. Most Americans haven't. You see, Australia's system requires employers to put 12% of a worker's income into a retirement investment fund automatically. Workers can add more if they want, but that 12% contribution grows through the stock market over their whole career. And guess what? That system has grown into one of the largest retirement savings pools in the world, over $4.3 trillion Australian, which is almost $3 trillion. And this is from a country with only 26 million people. So when you hear officials like Trump or Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent praise it, but when folks like BlackRock CK's Larry Finn say Australia has the gold standard, you start to see why this caught attention. Now, the big question everyone's asking is, okay, so is Trump trying to replace Social Security with something like this? And the short answer is nah, not right now. But the longer answer is more complicated and honestly more interesting, because what he's proposing, or at least hinting at, could shift how Americans save for retirement, how employers contribute, and even how we think about personal responsibility versus government responsibility. What's more, this whole conversation started because of the Trump accounts. So let's talk about those for a second. Starting in 2025, children born in the United States gets $1,000 placed into an investment account that grows until they turn 18. They can use it for education, a home, or starting a business. And the Dell's donation adds an extra $250 for $25 million kids in middle-class and lower-income households. Trump said, "These are basically the first trust funds for every American child." And that philosophy, the idea that early investing leads to greater opportunity later, that's the link to the bigger proposal. So then, when Trump mentioned a plan for working adults, he said there's a certain Australian plan that people like, and it wasn't subtle. He was referring to superannuation. So you can see the picture forming here. Children start with investment accounts. Working adults might get something similar, except funded by employers. And the idea is that over time, each generation builds more personal wealth instead of relying solely on public programs. But here's the thing, you see, even though Australia's system works really well for them, trying to copy in the US would be incredibly difficult. For one, Australia legally requires all employers to make these contributions. No opting out. Here in the US, retirement savings are mostly optional. Some employers offer a 401k, others don't. Some match contributions, others don't. Plus, Australia's healthcare system covers everyone. That makes it easier to coordinate retirement needs. America has Medicare, private insurance, Social Security, and a lot of moving pieces, so yeah, changing all of that wouldn't be simple. Now, another thing to consider is the role of Social Security. Social Security isn't going anywhere right now, and honestly, it can't. More than 70 million Americans rely on it. But the trust fund is projected to be insolvent by 2033. After that, it can still pay benefits, just less of them, about 77%. So when Trump brings up alternative systems, it's probably coming from this bigger urgency about the long-term health of Social Security and the national debt. Speaking of which, let's talk about why the administration might be looking at something like this. Some believe it's about strengthening long-term savings. Others think it's a way to encourage family building, since the U.S. birth rate is falling, and some see it as a shift away from entitlement programs toward personal investment accounts. It's not entirely clear yet, but the fact that the President of the United States is praising a foreign retirement system at a national event is unusual, and that's why policy experts are paying attention. Alright, so let's compare the two systems more closely, because understanding the difference helps answer whether the U.S. could ever switch. In Australia, the money goes into a private investment fund. It's your money. You earn returns. You can choose how aggressively to invest. You can switch funds, but you can't access the money until retirement, unless it's a very narrow emergency. Meanwhile, Social Security is a pay-as-you-go system. Your payroll taxes don't go into an account with your name on it. They go to current retirees. In exchange, you get a guaranteed benefit later. They're totally different philosophies. One is personal ownership, the other is collective protection. So, would America accept a mandatory system where employers contribute more and where a portion of your future depends on a market? That's the big unknown. And honestly, it might depend on how people feel about the future of Social Security. If folks believe the government guarantee is weakening, they might prefer an investment-based approach. But if they feel the stock market risks are too high, they might resist the shift. Another thing worth mentioning is this. Australia's system didn't happen overnight. It took decades of legislative battles, cultural change, and economic restructuring for the U.S. With all its political gridlock, trying to pass something this big would be a massive lift. Business groups would probably push back hard. Some policymakers would view it as too much government involvement. Others might say it doesn't go far enough, it's complicated from every direction. And also, people worry about volatility. Investment accounts can grow a lot, but they can also drop during market downturns. Social Security doesn't do that. So, if the U.S. were to introduce a compulsory investment system, you'd probably see new rules, protections, and maybe even minimum guaranteed returns. But again, all of that is theoretical at this stage. So then, what does this all actually mean for you today, right now? It means the administration is exploring ideas. It means the Trump accounts for children are officially happening. It means that conversations about retirement reform are no longer something politicians avoid. And it means the future might include a mix of Social Security and new private investment structures instead of choosing one or the other, or the... What's more, it means this conversation is not going away because of the underlying problems. The retirement landscape is changing. People are living longer, pensions are disappearing, the cost of living is rising, and there's more pressure on individuals to save. And here's something to think about. If the U.S. ever adopted a system like Australia's, even partially, younger workers could end up retiring with significantly larger investment balances, but older workers or those close to retirement might not get the same benefits. So any change would need a transition period, maybe 20 years, maybe more. And until then, Social Security would still be the main foundation for retirement. Speaking of which, let's talk about whether Social Security would be replaced. Based on everything said so far, the answer is no. The Trump accounts don't replace anything. A superannuation-style system wouldn't replace Social Security either. At least not anytime soon. Instead, these proposals would act as supplements. And honestly, that might be the smarter path for the U.S. because Social Security serves a purpose that investment accounts simply can't. Some retirees depend on it for nearly all their income. You can't substitute that with a volatile account, especially for people already in their 60s or 70s. Another interesting point is that shifting toward investment-based systems usually requires strong financial education. Australia has built a culture where people understand how their super accounts work, at least at a basic level. Here in the US, A lot of people don't even know how their 401k works or what an index fund is or why fees matter. So, if this idea ever moves forward, we need a nationwide education effort. Another thing to consider is this. Examining Australia's success is a way of asking whether the US can reduce financial pressure on the government by shifting more responsibility to the private sector. It's a philosophical question. Should retirement be a shared responsibility between workers, employers, and the government, or should it remain mostly government-backed? I think that's where this conversation is heading. No matter what happens at the federal level, the financial world is shifting toward more personal savings and earlier investing. Trump's comments just push that conversation into the national spotlight. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you believe the US should move toward a system like Australia's, or should we strengthen Social Security instead? I'd really love to hear your experiences and your concerns. Thanks for being here today, and I hope this gave you some clarity. Stay safe, stay informed, and I'll see you soon.